I'm often asked, why do you do these things? Why have you committed your life to exploring human potential and trying to help people to discover their own extraordinary capacities? Why the magnificent human? Well, when I was 8 years old, I had a remarkable series of experiences that I think set me on my path. My father was a well-known comedy writer, and one particular year, when I was 8 years old, he was writing the Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy show. Edgar Bergen was a famous ventriloquist. Charlie was his little dummy. And my father said, "Hey, kiddo, you want to go and talk to Charlie?" I used to love to do that. I said, "Yeah, Daddy, let's go." So we went, and there was Edgar Bergen, the ventriloquist, sitting with his back to us, talking to Charlie. Nothing unusual. He was probably rehearsing. But my father, who was an agnostic Baptist, said, "Hey, I didn't write those things. What's he doing?" Because Bergen was asking Charlie ultimate questions. "Charlie, what does it mean to truly love? Charlie, where is the soul? Charlie, what is the mind?" You know, the great questions. And this funny little, clacking jaw dummy was saying, "Wow, Bergen," and answering with the genius of the finest minds of the last 10,000 years. Well, my father coughed, and Bergen turned around and said, "Oh, hello, you caught us." And my father said, "Yeah, Ed, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm talking to Charlie. He's the wisest person I know." And my father said, "But Ed, that's your voice, that's your understanding coming out of that cockamamie dummy." And Bergen said, "Well, yeah, Jack, I imagine it is. But when I ask him these questions and he answers, I haven't got the faintest idea what he's going to say. And what he says is so brilliant. It's so much more than anything I know." Well, I tell you, friends, my mind was turned on. I realized that there is so much more that we contain within us. And how can we find the ways and the means to tap into that innate genius that in this time we desperately need if we're going to survive and transform the great issues of our time? Well, 2 weeks after that event, I was at my favorite school. I went to 20 schools before I was 12 because we were always on the road. My favorite school was PS6, where we were taken to meet the great elders of the time. And we were taken to meet Helen Keller, who some of you know was born, well, no, by the time she was 19 months old, she was deaf, dumb, and blind. And she had become the great midwife of souls, the one who helped so many disabled people. So we went there and to a club where she was speaking, and she came forward and she spoke to us in this incredible, beautiful, luminous voice of someone who has never heard speech. And I was so moved that when they said, "Does any child want to come up and speak to Miss Keller?" my hand shot up. And I went forward, had no idea what I was going to say. And Miss Keller placed her entire hand on my face, and with the center of her hand, she read my lips, and with her fingers, she read my expression. And I blurted out with a child's savage honesty, "Why are you so happy?" And she laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And she said, this is roughly what she sounded like, "My child, it is because I live each day as if it were my last, and life in all its moments is so full of glory." And life in all its moments is so full of glory. Was she damaged? Technically, was she damaged? Not at all. She had rewoven the remaining filaments of her senses into a net into which she captured all of reality, and thus became the great evoker of the capacities in others. Well, with those two stories, 2 weeks ahead, 2 weeks apart from each other, I became committed to the mission of evoking the magnificent human that we all contain. And that's what I invite you to join with me now. Thank you.